American, Canadian, American?
I'm like a mongrel.
Oh, well, that's nothing wrong with being a mongrel. We're all mongrels, but there is a fundamental difference between our comfort with bodily shit. Do you know what I mean? The Scots are, I think, quite traditionally quite closed and private and tend not to get changed. I think I saw my mum's vagina once as a child because I went into the bathroom and I was like, what was that? She was like, none of your business. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like there's not, and I worked in Edinburgh once and met a South African, San Francisco lassie, and she was trying to teach the Spanish students who were learning English words for sex and stuff, and she's like, oh, do this, rub my anus, and you know, like, give now this quite specific instructions and try to teach them. I'm like, no, left a bit, right a bit, harder, softer, end of story. You know what I mean? Anything more than that is just vulgarity. You know? So, anyway, so that was my preamble. I've got some stuff in my bag, right? Now, for the last 3.5 years, pretty much, I've been in an altered state of consciousness, right? Like a fundamentally different biochemical state that has put me into a fundamental rage and gave me the desire to raise an army and go on a genocidal campaign. And thankfully, I no longer feel like that. Like, it's like there's been a shift in my consciousness and in my personality and everything else, and I'm not really sure how to relate to people anymore, because in that 3.5 years, it was due to a series of adverse reactions to chemicals that I was working with, and also materials I was being treated with by my dentist that were just sending my entire physiology into meltdown and was making me really aggressive and rageful. I wasn't violent in any way, but my communication was affected. So I've just kind of gotten back into my body and just feel like that I'm myself again, that I'm like back to who I was before all that shit happened, you know, and I'm trying to reconnect to who I might have been if shit hadn't hit the fan, sort of thing. So I did prepare some notes and a lot of stuff and a lot of stories. I've got a lot of stories to tell you, and it's really difficult for me. And certainly previously, often my consciousness was open, and I had this massive tapestry of multiple millions of experiences, and I was seeing them at the same time. Do you know, like my entire life was in one plane of time that made it almost impossible for me to select and choose in order to relate to people. So I didn't really understand why people come to storytelling events, right? Like, because I'm not a very good listener, right? I'm not really interested in other people's stories, although I'm pleasantly pleased by those that I've heard today. But like, because I'm like, my story is the most important in the world, and you should only be listening to my story, right? So now, but again, it's like, what do you come to storytelling events for? Are you looking to be made to cry? Are you looking to be made to feel better about yourselves? Are you looking to realise that there's other people with a lot less shame than you in the world? Why do people come to storytelling? Because this will determine the selection that I choose. Because like what I've done, right? Like I've got like a complaint. I've got like my health history, which is like a summary of all the events that have led me to realise we're in a fascist totalitarian dictatorship that is killing Jews. That's my broad thesis. I've got my complaint against my GPs for the multiple flaws in my medical record. I've got some notes about the time that I think I maybe left my body when I ran away from the police. I've got I've been busy, right? This is like the first series of stories, like the first half of my life in 1998, at which time I was being poisoned by my doctors at the time, but didn't realise it, because they were like, oh, it's not the drug, it's your illness, carry on taking it, you know, like the McRobert experiment sort of thing. Like, so I've got like a couple of 100,000 words in that we can touch on. I've got my medical record for that year. I've got my psychiatric record for that year. Any takers? No. I've got some poetry I wrote that year. I've got some letters I wrote that year, including one where I tried to get somebody killed. No?
Yeah.
None of that? No. He was an asshole. He was an asshole. He really was an asshole. He deserved it. They just sent a letter back to me. I sent it to the wrong address. all the organisations that I'm preparing documents on because of their fucking fascism. What else? I've got my to-do list for all the shit I need to do in my house, my caravan. No, none of you are looking interested. What is like? What else can I do?
I'd like to hear the poetry.
You want me to do some poetry? You want me to be serious?
Yeah.
Right, okay. Well, there's a story behind the poetry, right? There's a story behind the poetry. Basically, when was this? It was 1998. I was being drugged by my doctors on antidepressants, which were creating a huge amount of side effects, right? But the doctors were denying that the side effects or my symptoms were due to the drugs, so they were telling me to take more and increasing my dose, and then they would like give me something to help me sleep and then withdraw it and then give it me. So I was like a little bitch, you know, like on a hook to a drug dealer effectively. And it got to the point where they were just like, no, we're not giving you any more help for what were the side effects of the antidepressants, which was like insomnia, stress, waking nightmares, sleep paralysis, like huge amount of symptoms that they were denying were anything to do with the tablets that I was on. So the only thing that would help me at the time was smoking dope or smoking weed. Sorry, I need to get my breath. Normally I would just keep going until I suffocate, so that's an improvement. No joking either. So anyway, so I was on all these antidepressants which were kind of fighting my entire nervous system and my neurons in my brain, so my mind was constantly conscious all the time, like full time, non-stop. I was also in a situation where I had friends who were in violent relationships, so I was constantly opening my door to women who had just been battered or just been beaten up, and then the boyfriend would be there 20 minutes later or whatever. I also had moved in one lassie whose boyfriend had beaten her up because the social work would not make him leave his house because that would be making him homeless, even though he'd punched their daughter. So it was a lot of shit going on. I was doing my thesis at the time, a degree in health science as well. I was working 30 hours a week in a swimming pool. So the swimming pool, it turns out I've got a chemical sensitivity. So it turns out that I was exposing myself to industrial chemicals to the extent. So it was a mess. My nervous system was a mess. I was under a lot of stress. And I couldn't really kind of think or just settle. I was just in a constant state of duress. So at one point, so I would smoke weed and pot or hash would help me. And then at this time, we got some weed that was laced with something. I think it maybe had an opiate or a chemical opiate or something in it. Or it could just be that my nervous system was so wound up and so agitated and so flooded with cortisol and adrenaline and all this other stuff that when I was smoking it, it wasn't really making any difference. My tolerance had gotten high. And I was smoking it, and one night I smoked like 7 grams in one night. Normally 7 grams would do me a week. So I completely tripped out. I was sitting on my sofa, and my entire life and stuff till that point I'd been forgetting. It looks like I'd been having some kind of epileptic fits at different points, but not really realising that they were fits. And then I was during conflicts. Here we go. Somebody just had one in the corner. It's the story of a Borgia. So I better give up, right? Okay. Do we need to get somebody in? Do we?
Yeah, a brush, please.
We need a brush. That's okay. We can do that. That's fine. We'll just wait. But I'll continue. Can I continue while we wait for the brush? Is that okay? So I had this flashback, and my entire life was projected in front of me, like 6 feet in front of me, right? Like it was like there was a ray of light in my head, and
You can't go out. You can't.
oh, the cat's alright. Cat'll be fine. And it was like, so then I had this vision of my entire life projected in front of me, all of these stories from my life, things I'd learned, things I'd seen, different knowledge, and as opposed to having a linear understanding of it, which is what you tend to do with your life, you understand it linear, this completely transformed my perception of my life. And at this point was when my entire life was projected and different scenes were drawn together and connected in a way that made me go, what the fuck, man, there's something really, really fascinating going on here in terms of my story. And then I threw myself forward and I started writing these poems. So the first one is nearly a poem that I wrote that day. It's actually a letter about a violent guy, so I'll skip that one. So one poem that just, and this was all streamed, they're not edited, they're just as they came, so I felt like I was tuned into some kind of divine consciousness. If tomorrow, this is called If and Why. If tomorrow you were to die and see your life before your eye, would you ask yourself the question, why? If at once your life did end, would your memoirs send you round the bend? If tomorrow you could not cry or see the sparkle in your very own eyes, would you ask yourself the question, why? If right now you knew you'd never wake again, would your last thoughts be sane? Did you listen to the priest? Did you practice what you preached? Are you narrow or are you whole, or did you sell your wicked soul? If tomorrow you were to die and see your life before your eye, would you ask yourself the question why? So that was one. Then they didn't come in any particular order, but like they were just through the stream. It was. That's the same one again. Then I wrote them two in a different order. Should I pick them randomly or should I just read them? Well, I quite like this one. This one's called Society. And this is called, we live in the society of the hypocrite, where everything they say is complete bullshit. They lie to you in history, they hold you back in school. They don't really believe in education, they want a society of fools, where their actions are proof that the puppet masters and capitalist class are afraid of us. To ensure fruition of their master plans, they manipulate, bully and use guns. They produce pollution that destroys our lungs, sedate our minds with medication, and monitor and control our communications in the interest of protecting their freedoms and ensuring the continuation of their way of life. They make it impossible for most of us to fully live life, so it's time for the people to be as one, to take control of our shared resources and create the world that we need and want. I'm a bit less of a socialist now than I was then, but didn't feel that at the time. The next one is researchers. I did a degree in health science and did a lot of studying in social research. I think some of these were kind of almost like my own superconscious, my own thoughts kind of coming back to me. But what I found with the academic and professional class is that they're studying other people, right? They're studying mostly the working classes, and they're studying family and individual lives, and then they're learning how to manipulate and interfere in those lives. And they're saying things like, "We were just trying to help you," right? And it's like, get fuck out our fucking lives, fuck off, right? It was the kind, because in any situation I've ever been in where the professional class have been involved in my life, they've fucking made it worse, right? And any time a social worker I've seen get involved in a family, they've made it fucking worse, right? So, and the same with the research. This is what gives you the fucking right to study me and my life and my family, and then to write policies on the basis of that kind of thing. So this was called Researchers. You cannot watch the world go by. You cannot see with a prying eye. If you really want to know, you must live life before you go. But instead, you watch us from a distance. From the outside you look in, you hypothesize about the nature of our minds and lives. You dig and pry and ask us what, why, and where and when. You analyse and scrutinise our answers, put us into boxes and turn us into types. You're a thief of the highest order, a plagiarist of insight, a robber of experience, someone who steals the art from life and reduces it to science. You gut and slice and dice us with your analytic knife with a view to intervening in our complex lives. But by the time you come to tell us what you think we need, to tell us what you think is good, we've changed our staple food. We've adapted and survived and moved on with our wonderfully troubled lives. So come down from your pedestal, stop taking us for fools, and join us in our fight for communists to all. I get really upset. Really fucking upset, you know? So anyway, so that's okay. Should I keep going?
I've got one more.
One more minute, one more poem. Well, it's a really short one. It's a really short one, and it's called It's Variety, the Messengers of Science. Variety is the spice of life. Personal experience is bias. Those who have lived the sheltered life are the messengers of science. There you go.
Thank you.
Right. Thanks very much.